Think you can pick this?
Trying to tell us. Cage, I'm missing something.
They said they knew what was best for us.
Booker?
They said they knew what was coming next.
Booker!
Did you see this coming, old man?
Okay, we gotta get ready.
Did you see this coming,
They mean to board us.
You ain't gonna place your daughter on the throne. We're gonna place her in her grave.
Elizabeth, stop it!
C-A-G-E! It's not a word, Booker! It's a song! Shh, it's okay. I'm here. Will you help me? I need you to protect me. Will you do it? Will you do this for me? Just this one last thing. Please. Go. Go! Booker, he'll help us. We can use him against the Vox fleet. Booker, rockets!
Get the gunship.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Bioshock Infinite, and this is the last episode of the LP. This is pretty much what you could call the final boss fight, if there is to be one. And yeah, you've probably already figured out the gimmick of it, which is that you have to protect the big power generator thing from being completely destroyed by all the boys. They're the Vox Populi. And, yeah, you can call Songbird to attack all of those things. So I am saving any discussion of story stuff or any like in-depth sort of commentary junk for later, for the credits actually, which are the end of this video. This video is a little bit long. I didn't want it to be too long because the two Harry Potter videos with Liv that I put up this week were both like over 30 minutes long. I consider a longer LP video to be anything over 30 minutes, personally. If it's, 20 to 25, I think is like a hefty, like decent sort of amount of stuff at once, you know what I mean? But I didn't want to split. My original plan was to split, part 15 would be this until the end of the game, and then part 16 would just be the credits and me talking over it and giving my thoughts on the game and on how the LP went and everything. And I was going to upload part 15 on Wednesday, and then 16 would be the last one, and I would put that up on Friday, which is when I'm putting this one up. But logistics and just, not really wanting to belabor things, led me to just, combining the two into one longer video, because I don't even include all of the credits anyway. So, yeah, I don't have too much to say about this end fight here. It's pretty much just shooting the Vox Populi, except every once in a while you press F for Songbird to get the airships. I think it's very weird that the last actual, like, gameplay of this game is you fighting the Vox Populi. I mean, I understand, like, you're on Comstock's ship, so, like, they're attacking the ship, and, you know, Comstock is bad. You should attack Comstock. But that's precisely what is weird about it, is just ending your story with the, you know, protagonist having to, like, defend the antagonist's airship, is strange to me. And I mean, it's not too strange when you find out the thing that you're gonna find out in this video, which, even saying that is probably a spoiler, but it's the end of the fucking LP, so whatever. But I don't know, it just strikes me as weird. But I'll talk about story stuff, like I said, during the credits, because, yeah, there's a big, long, sort of narrative thing to end the game off after this fight, and I would just rather, even though there are playable bits to it and it goes on for a little while, I'm just gonna leave it without comment because I think that's better. But anyway, while I still have a few minutes, there was one thing I wanted to talk about, and it was, as I mentioned them a minute ago, the videos of Liv playing Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets with both of us commentating. I hope people enjoy those, because we originally were just doing, you know, 1 or 2 videos of it just to see, like, whether she liked doing those kinds of videos, whether people enjoyed watching them, whether we enjoyed making them together, and I think we do, and people seem to like it. So we're probably going to go ahead and just make that a full-fledged LP. I don't know how often it'll be updated, but it'll be the Tuesday, Thursday LP, while the one I'll be doing after this for Monday, Wednesday, Friday starts up. But watching her play the Harry Potter game, and also playing, we streamed her playing Shrek 2 and Mario Sunshine as well this week. And it made me think of, there's a pretty good YouTube video that talks about this subject, but it made me think about interesting things I notice about how people who aren't, for lack of a better term, gamers, people who don't play video games really ever, watching them play video games and, like, how they approach playing them in terms of, like, because I think I take for granted, or I forget how many things are just second nature to me because I've played a bunch of other video games, and I've been playing them for a long time. Like, I consider myself, like, really shit at video games. I don't think I have good instincts. But just, like, basic cable video game stuff, I think I take for granted. With stuff like, it was stuff that, like, it surprised me that it wasn't coming as second nature to her, but it makes sense because she doesn't play that many video games. So, like, being able to be aware of multiple things on screen at once, like, having an idea of where you have been, like, having a conception of the 3D space, like, she doesn't always recognize places she's already been or things she's already done. Understanding, like, the axis of movement, like how your character moves, and knowing where all the buttons are. Like, she kind of has to think about what button she's pressing. I don't have to because it's muscle memory, literally. And especially on the GameCube emulator, because the buttons don't, like, the letters on the buttons in the game don't match the letters on the buttons on my USB controller, because we're playing on an emulator. So, like, the X button is the B button on my controller, and the B button is the X button, and so on. But I did that because, for me, when I play those GameCube games, it's more important that, like, the buttons are in the same place on the controller that I'm used to them being, not necessarily them corresponding to each other's letters, and so, or symbols, or whatever you want to call them. But she hasn't developed that muscle memory, so it's just interesting. Like, this isn't me shitting on her or anything. It's me saying it's interesting when you haven't, like, had as much experience with the medium with other games, just completely unrelated games, that can affect, like... Especially, I think the main thing is knowing what you can and can't do, what you can and can't interact with, or where you can and can't go. People who play a lot of, like, platforming games are used to seeing things like invisible walls, or, you know, there are certain things that can be broken and others that can't, and, like, kind of being able to identify which is which. And I think that's one of the main things, because when I watch, not just Liv, but other people who don't play video games very often, when I watch them play video games, one of the main, like, frustrations they have is, why can't I do this? Like, questioning the restrictions on what you can do and stuff like that. So all that stuff is interesting to me because it's like any other medium. I mean, that's the reason why you can tell what's going on in a movie. Like, you can kind of see where a plot thread or whatever is going because you've seen other movies. You have that context behind you. To be able to make sense of it, to be able to, you know, when you see a certain shot, you know what is trying to be communicated, you know what the terms of the language are. And I think it's interesting to think that, and remind yourself that video games are also a sort of language in and of themselves, that have identifiable parts and tropes and things like that. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting. I wanted to ramble about it for a little bit. This stuff is important. This is the end of the video game. I am going to stop talking over it, and I will see you guys for the credits at the end of the video for talking a little bit more about the story and stuff. So, yeah, enjoy.
Forward, Elizabeth! I lost control! He's coming!
No, he isn't.
Where is he? Where is he?
It's okay. It's all right. I'm here. Just let go. There you go. There you go.
Elizabeth, I'm sorry. What is this place? Elizabeth?
It's a doorway. One of many. This way.
What do you mean it's a doorway? Where are you going?
Oh, come on. Yes, it's this way.
What Comstock said about your finger. Is there an answer here? Do you...
Down here. Over here, Booker. This is where we have to go.
Why? What is going on? Elizabeth, what do you mean this is a doorway?
I'll have to show you.
Probably gonna regret this. City at the bottom of the ocean. Ridiculous.
Look at that. Thousands of doors. Opening all at once. My God, they're beautiful.
What, the stars?
Come on, it's this way. Come on.
Are you going to open it?
It's no good. Damn it. I thought once we were here, I could fully control it. I thought...
What is that?
It's a key.
Where did it come from?
It's always been there. I just couldn't see it. See? Not stars. They're doors.
Doors to...
To everywhere. All that's left is the choosing.
What are all these lighthouses? Why are we... Who are...
There are a million worlds. All different, all similar. Constants and variables.
What?
There's always a lighthouse. There's always a man. There's always a city.
How do you know this?
I can see them through the doors. You, me, Columbia, Songbird. And sometimes, something's different, yet the same.
Constants and variables.
Yes. Look.
It's us.
Not exactly. We swim in different oceans but land on the same shore. It always starts with a lighthouse.
I don't understand.
We don't need to. It'll happen all the same.
Why?
Because it does. Because it has. Because it will.
There's so many choices.
They all lead us to the same place. Where it started.
No one tells me where to go.
Booker. We've already been.
Wait a minute. I know this place. I was here. Must have been 20 years ago, right after Wounded Knee. I was looking for...
Come on now, time's a-wasting.
Why were you here?
Are you ready to have your past erased? Are you ready to have your sins cleansed? Are you ready to be born again? Take my hand.
No, I don't want to.
But you already did, didn't you?
Are you ready to be born again?
I am.
Do you hate your sins?
I do.
Do you hate your wickedness?
Yes.
Do you want to clean the slate, leave behind all you were before, and be born again in the blood of the
Yes.
Lamb? Jesus, wash this man clean.
Wait.
Father, make him
Stop
born
it.
again. Lord,
Stop it!
what are you doing to it?
Get off me! Get off!
Son!
You didn't go through with it.
Think a dunk in the river's gonna change the things I've done? Let's get out of here. Hey, these doors of yours, they're all tears, right? Well, open one up. Open one up to Paris. I want to be shut of all this.
Not until we find Comstock.
Comstock's dead!
No. He was here. This way.
What of my debts?
Bring us the girl, and wipe away the debt.
This is the man who hired me to find you.
Really?
Yes, the girl for the debt. Wait, no, this is wrong. What is this? It was no baby. I remember. No, there was no baby, and if there was, I sure as hell wouldn't give it over to this guy.
Booker, you don't leave this room until you do.
Do it. Time is running short. Bring us the girl, and wipe away the debt.
Go ahead.
No.
You can wait as long as you want. Eventually, you'll give him what he wants.
How do you know all this?
I can see all the doors, and what's behind all the doors. And behind one of them, I see him.
Comstock. What choice do I have?
The debt's paid. Mr. Comstock washes you of all your sins.
Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt.
There was no baby. The deal was I go to Columbia to get you.
Booker, you're bleeding.
Oh. I remember. But I remember.
Now we've upset him.
I don't expect this next bit will do much for his mood.
Come on.
What are we doing here? Comstock's dead. We can just go on with our lives. You don't need
Dead? You mean like Chen Lin? Like Lady Comstock? No. He is alive in a million worlds. It's not over because the Prophet is dead. It will only be over when he never even lived in the first place.
Hey! Hey, the deal's off, you hear me?
Unstable.
The deal is off! Give her back! Give her back!
Fine, are you mad?
No!
Give her back, you son of a bitch!
It's ready! Go!
No! No!
Shut down the machine!
No!
Shut it
Anna!
down! Shut down the
Anna!
machine! Now do it!
Give me back my daughter! No! Anna? No. No. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Anna, I'm sorry.
She's gone, Booker. Anna's gone. You shared this room with your regret for almost 20 years. Until one day, a man came to you and offered you a chance at redemption. A chance for us to breathe together.
I told you it would work.
We already know it works. The question is, will he?
Anna. So sorry, Anna.
Do you suppose he branded himself as some sort of penance?
Should've.
Don't see the point. What's done is done. What's done will be done. I suppose the brand is his hair shirt, as he is ours.
Wipe away the dead. Bring us the girls. Wipe away the dead.
See? He's starting to put his story together.
Wipe away
You're quite fond of this theory of yours.
He's manufacturing new memories from his old ones.
Well, the brain adapts.
I should know. I've lived it.
Booker, wake up. Booker, wake up. This is where it started.
I sold you. I sold you.
To your credit, you did try to weasel out of the deal.
This is all Comstock's fault. What if I went back? Killed him before he did any of this?
Things get set in motion.
How would one know how far back to go?
That's the only way to do it. Go back to when he was born, and I'll smother this son of a bitch in his crib.
Booker, are you sure this is what you want?
I have to. It's the only way to undo what I've done to you.
Booker DeWitt, are you ready to
What
be
is this?
born again?
Why are we back here?
This isn't the same place, Booker.
Of course it is. I remember.
Are you ready to leave behind all
You're
that
not-
has gone before? Wipe the slate clean.
Who are you?
Start
You
anew.
chose to walk away,
Washed
but in
the
other
blood
oceans,
of the Lamb.
you didn't. You took the
Do you
baptism.
hate your
You were
sin?
born again as a different man.
Do you hate your
It all
wickedness?
has to end. To have never started, not just in this world, but in all of ours.
Smother him in the crib.
Smother, 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 smother. Before the choice is made, before you are
And
reborn.
what name shall you take, my son?
He's Zachary Comstock. He's Booker DeWitt.
I'm both.
And there you have it, folks. That is the end of Bioshock Infinite. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. I'm not gonna, go piece by piece, through all of the different things. But interesting enough ending. It's certainly a little more heady, and I guess less straightforward in some ways than other game stories is. And I do admire this game for doing something kind of ambitious. And I've collected some of my thoughts about this game, throughout playing it. And I think that the actual plot, like just the events of the plot and specifically the events of the ending, I think that they're interesting. Like, I think it's good in that way, that it's a neat idea. I mean, it makes enough sense to me, especially now that I've sort of cleared up the whole multiple realities thing. It's the underlying stuff that doesn't really work well for me. Like, I do think it's clever that Booker is Comstock and that Comstock's birth was with his baptism rather than an actual birth, and that Booker needs to kill himself to cut off that timeline and prevent Columbia from existing. But wouldn't all the Bookers wouldn't all of them who took the baptism have to be drowned for all those Elizabeths to not exist anymore, and not just the one? Like, I know they all drowned him or whatever, but, like, they said that he took the baptism in some of the different things, and, like, I don't know. I don't know if that really makes sense to me. The other disappointing thing to me about the ending to this game is that it kind of overcomplicates or just, like, does away entirely with all of the political themes of the story, which I think are, like, this isn't just me being like, oh, what about the politics? Like, all of that shit is, from the beginning, very enmeshed in the whole story that's being told. And the game's first third or so is interesting to me because it sets up a story sort of positioning Booker and therefore the player, you know, the audience, society, what have you. I would say specifically like white men or Americans, to tell a story about how they have a place, and we have a place in the direction of history, and our decisions help create the conditions for suffering and contribute to corrupt and oppressive power structures and such. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think there's a lot of poignancy to that idea. But Booker literally is the arbiter of that power structure, and it's kind of just all his fault. And the only way to right that wrong is to just go back in time and make it so he can't do it. And I don't know, that just kind of leaves any analysis the game could have made about our choices and how they relate to the structures of society. It makes them kind of unworkable or just uninteresting to me. And it makes me wonder if all the very loaded narrative and iconographic stuff about American exceptionalism and imperialism and capitalism that are all introduced in very interesting ways in the first half of the game were just like window dressings for this epic sci-fi story that Ken Levine wanted to tell. And it makes me question how much Levine really grasps these concepts that he obviously finds very interesting, and his ability to work them into a story in a way that makes sense. Because, you know, the parts of a story are the characters, you know, the power dynamics between them, and their relationship to the society they're in, and what they do, you know, the choices they make. And, you know, if you're gonna set yourself up as a sort of commentary on these sorts of ideas, like, these things need to align. Like, all of the elements of your story need to have purpose, and they have to speak to some sort of truth you're trying to get at about all of these elements that you're putting in here. But it becomes clear to me after a while in this game that Ken Levine just kind of wanted these things as a backdrop to make a video game in. And I think this is one of the things I've talked before in this LP about, you know, ways in which I think the video game medium, at least with like AAA mainstream games, could be expanded and maybe taken a little bit more seriously in terms of telling narratives, because I think video games are equipped very specially to be able to do a lot of very interesting things with narrative because of the interactivity, because of the choice involved and everything like that. Instead, most games just kind of become interactive movies where they, you know, like I discussed it before, I don't need to go into it again. But, yeah, so it's weird, I feel bad, I've sort of come away from this LP with a more negative opinion of this game than when I started. It really is the whole Vox Populi thing. Because it acts like it's going to be a commentary on American ideology and on a capitalist ideology. It sets all of those things up in the first half very explicitly, and it pits the main characters against it directly. But then once it has a story element where you actually have to confront that ideology in some way, it kind of backs away and then sort of ignores it for the rest of the game, and then just becomes, you know, sci-fi story. And This is the first time that I've played through this game all the way through since I first played it, which was back in 2013, so I was only, I guess, 16 years old when I first played it, and, yeah, so my opinion has definitely changed of it, and it's not just because I'm disappointed that the politics of the game don't line up with my own. I don't really need art to agree with me to like it or think it's good. Also, I like Johnny Fawcett's comment of "my shoes hurt," and I also like "I'm sure it's fine." These are all very funny little things. For my wife and Louis Peepaws. I don't know what that fucking means. And what is this redacted shit? Like, is this person a CIA spook? I don't understand. Like, that's a very foreboding thing. Redacted will never be a problem again. What the fuck am I supposed to take from that? But anyway, no, I'm not just disappointed that the politics of the game don't line up with my own, but its treatment of its political subject matter, and as a result, like, the themes of its story are incoherent and ultimately kind of incidental to its actual plot, and they're not really fleshed out or explored to any cogent end. And that's just kind of a bummer, kind of disappointing. I feel like you could have done more interesting things with this. There's a lot of interesting ideas. There's a lot of potential in this game, I'll say that, but I don't think they fully, came up to the task. And it makes me want to reevaluate the first Bioshock and its examinations of objectivism and everything, because, again, I don't know if I would come away thinking that it was a really great treatment of that subject matter. I did not know that they had this anachronistic 1910s version, like ragtime version of Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. It's pretty funny. I did not include all of these credits because they go on for fucking ever, so it kind of cuts off at an arbitrary point. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this LP, even though the latter half of it was just a lot of me bitching about its story. But I hope that bitching was at least interesting and got you thinking. And I've already said what the next LP is going to be. That'll be starting up soon. And like I said, more Harry Potter with Liv, most likely. And, yeah, I think this LP was good. Like, I think, even art, even games that I don't think are all that great or, that successful, I think this one still has a lot of meat, a lot of things to think about, a lot of things to talk about that I find interesting, at least, so I hope that you did as well. But thank you for watching this one. I hope this was a fun game to watch, and I'll see you for whatever the next one is.